So you are listening to the Guard the House podcast. I'm here. I'm your host, Dennis Yahuah Delamar, and we are back for part two. Part one was, man, I had to recruit. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. I had to recruit, but we are back for part two. So we're gonna pick up the story and just dive in. Get your popcorn. Get ready, man. Just to play this wherever you are. And thank you for listening to this story. Every time you listen to the story or you share this story with somebody else, share it with a parent. You know what I'm saying? Like, you may come from a different background, you may come from a different place than our family is coming from, as far as our positioning with the hospital system, all that different stuff. But it is important information that all parents need to know, right? So we're talking about medical kidnapping, all that good jazz. I just shared it on my social media. They just had one of the senators share Tasha Patterson's story. I'm going to tell you more about those type of things and some things that we're working on, at a certain point. But so Tasha Patterson, her twins were taken, and things are making waves. Like it's kind of like the ground grassroots thing is bubbling up, and people in higher positions are starting to hear about this thing, medical kidnapping. Because sometimes I ask people about it, and they like, is that when people steal organs or something and like traffic them? I'm like, nah, that's not that's not what this is, So it's still kind of new when you talk about medical kidnapping, right? So that's just my little spiel, but let's get back into it, right? So, all right, I'm gonna recap a little bit. So we got the whole thing. We got, us taking our son to the hospital because he had an adhesion after the circumcision. And so we go in there, we hit with the social worker, we hit with the transfer first, transfer to a hospital. And then we hit with this the social worker, and then this NAT workup, which is called non-accidental trauma. So non-accidental trauma is meaning that someone inflicted a certain amount, trauma on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Non-accidental, that's what it means, right? So, and then the whole thing with, the social worker committing perjury, basically lying to the judge to get a warrant to remove our children, right? That happened. That was June 28th, 2024. So we pick up there. So our children is gone. We just put them in a thing, and so I think I told you that my wife's my wife's side, because my family, like, I'm from North Carolina, so I don't have, like, family. I have family in California, but not in like LA or like, around the way. And so with that, it was kind of like, okay, they got placed with an aunt, right? So that was a big relief, because I was tripping out and just praying that it wasn't like a foster care thing, because they try to make it like you didn't know. And this social worker, I'm telling you, man, like, and then I take different pauses to dive into the subjects, but that's why when I really seen this thing, I was like, no, this thing is a lot of these people that's inside these organizations are evil. I don't think necessarily that they come in with this whole evil intent, but I do believe in that system, in that culture, that there's such a demonic presence that it jumps on people. And the way she was moving, I really couldn't figure it out at first. And I'm gonna get into the story, like what it was, what it was. I couldn't figure out. Like, I'm trying to just rack my mind. So the first couple of days, man, I'm in shock. My wife in shock. We just like, and you going through the motions. Okay, yeah, we gonna do that, but you're really in shock. And I'm just like, I really didn't cry like right off the bat. I think my wife was crying, she was going in, and she was just, it was a tough time for me to just comfort her and try to reassure her that, this is our trial right here. This is upon us, and we have to, we have to confront it. So, the thing opened up, they have a court date within a couple days. So we hit the court date, and this is one of the toughest. Other than the day that I strapped them in and saw them ride off, this is probably the second hardest day. Was the first court date. The first court date was very difficult because when I saw, like, because Yarik, that's my 2-month-old at the time. He really don't know. I mean, he know what's going on, but it's 2 months, right? So my other son, he 2 years, so he can talk. He say different things. He's seeing what's going on. So he's having a different experience. So when we get to the court date, we don't know what to expect, and we get into this thing, and I see him, and he's looking at me like. Basically, the look on his face is like, man, how could you abandon me? And we was like instantly like strangers. Like I'm like the dad. We just shot this little short film that's gonna come out, and he's looking at me like, who is this dude? And really afraid to open up because we're having to hold it together in the court, and when you come in the little lobby thing, we having to hold it together, not break down. And so, it was hard to really get a hug because, this, I want to show you how wicked these people are, because something like that, right? Like if your child, they seen it, observed that, they were like, oh, the child doesn't really like the parents. It's like, man, see that, right? I'm telling you, bro, like that's why what's going to happen to CPS, the judgment of these people, is going to be so grievous. Like, I believe that it's going to be so grievous that it's going to last generations and generations. It's like one of those things that happened to somebody, like it's happened to a house, and it's like a curse on the house, and everybody that come in contact, it just trickle down. That's how much damage is going to happen to them. Like, it's going to be generations of people that have caused that damage, that in their family is going to be a lineage. Because remember, in the Torah, it says that Yahuah will punish to the 3rd and 4th generation. And because they'll look at that and say, oh, they don't even like their parent. They look at them. He exhibits, they'll write in their report, the child exhibits behavior of not wanting to be with the parents. Right? And they don't even factor the human element that the child just went through a traumatic thing where just in one day, it wasn't no warning. They don't even think about that. It ain't no warning. They don't even think about I don't even know if there's a mental study that shows like in one day you come and just like, if they actually cared about the child, wouldn't it be a process? Wouldn't it be, why would you immediately, this child has known this environment. And with our children, we ain't did no daycare. My wife is a stay-at-home mother, other than grandparents, they ain't been outside our sight, and so one day you rip them from their whole environment. It's violent. It's a violent act. It's a violent act. So violent. Do you know in the Torah, in the Bible, it said if you kidnap somebody, and you were found with the person you kidnapped, whoever kidnapped that person was put to death. That's how serious it was, because you was stealing a life. You was stealing a life from the very element of where it was built. You see what I'm saying? Like where it was growing. You just ripped the tree out and playing this game with this life. So we had this court date, and yeah, man, the court date is just, we have that element. We get through that, trying to just hug them, reassuring them that and they make you go through this orientation, and see, it's all a setup. It's all part of. It's all some kind of like psyop mind control thing, because they tell you when they do the orientation for parents, they try to tell you, well, don't tell the child that you're going to get them back or you're coming home or something like that. which is already setting you up to not believe that they're coming back. You see what I'm saying? Because now you can't even express your feelings on wanting them come. So they do all these little things. They give you this parent advocate, which ain't really doing nothing, just a phone call. Like they acting like, oh man, oh they only. I'm not saying they don't care, but it's like it's nothing they can do. You know what I'm saying? They just a ear to listen to. You know what I'm saying? A ear to hear you. So I get this lawyer. We got a public defense because it happened so fast. I mean, unless you got somebody on retainer, or unless you got 10 stacks to really just put up real quick. It happened so fast because your court date coming up fast. It's even fast if it's even hard if you got money to get a lawyer that quick to represent you in that first thing, because you didn't know it was gonna happen like that. So you may try to call all the lawyers, man. I'm busy, man. It's 3 days, and that's part of the trap too. Because even if you got money, it happens so quick, it's hard to even get your feet under you to represent yourself. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, like I said, if you had a lawyer on stack, if you already had a family lawyer, or you already knew that realm, or you got blessed to get somebody, that was free, that wasn't a part of. And this is a thing too, because this podcast is for parents maybe that hasn't went through this, but you listening to it. Yah forbid that you ever find yourself in this situation. But one of the things that I would rewind back and do is, first of all, understand your rights. Understand that you have the right to remain silent, and anything you say can and will be used against you. Remember that, can and will be used against you. So you have the right to not say anything. And you want to say something because you want to defend yourself. I understand. But you have to understand that these people don't care about the truth. They only care about what you're going to say and how they can spin it according to their narrative. So because you know that, you don't utter them a word, and you let them try to figure it out. You let them go in chaos. Because they're going to be in chaos, because they're going to be like, don't you want to defend yourself? And it doesn't even matter, because they already want to paint the narrative. Because that's how we was thinking, like, man, we want to tell them this. We tell them, at the hospital, that we go into the room, they separate you. Oh man, yeah, we did this, you trying to spill your guts, you know what I'm saying? And they look, you thinking you're going somewhere, they riding, you know what I'm saying? You like, oh yeah, I'm giving them the story, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm telling them like it is, you know what I'm saying? But hey, you just digging a hole. That's all you doing, right? You just digging a hole. And even if you don't have legal representation, you still have the right to remain silent. You have the right to remain silent, right? So we go through the first court day. It's a sham. They like, they say, oh, this. And this is another part of the situation, because it's not due process. Because what happens is when CPS made the report, right? The report goes to the lawyer. And I get this like African lawyer, right? So I'm thinking like, oh, this is sweet. I got an African lawyer, you know what I'm saying? He relate, Nope. You know what I'm saying? Nope. He part of the machine. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm gonna say, the machine. I ain't gonna say the system no more. We done with the word the system, right? That's played out. It's the machine, because it's the reason why it's a machine. Because the system just seemed like it's just working on its own, but a machine is a computer, and it's programmed to work the way it works, right? So so he worked for the machine, right? And the judge, a black woman. I'm thinking like, oh man, this man, Yahuah done hooked this up, right? Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? Like, I believe, that Yahuah really picked the worst of the worst people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll tell you about that. So yeah, so we got the joint, we got the first day out the way. And I'm like telling the lawyer, like, we went through the report. This is wrong. 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 And he looking at me like blinking. It's like, yeah. So this is what we gonna do. You know what I'm saying? Like, how you talk about a whole bunch of stuff, and then somebody just gloss over your point and get to where they going. That's exactly how he did me. And I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be crazy. So we in there. They don't even defend. They don't even stand up because I didn't even know your first court date. You can object. You can say, oh, yeah, whatever. Give the evidence. I told him about the purge. I said he lied, this and that. None of that matters. Because once you get, here's the thing about the machine, is once you get on the conveyor belt, bro, you stuck. You stuck on the conveyor belt. The machine is going to take you through every single stage of what it wants to take you through. The only way you survive is faith in the Messiah, right? That's off top. And to stand on your square. To stand on your square and feel like and know like that you don't have to prove yourself because you know the truth. They want you to exhaust yourself in proving yourself. They want to put you through the hurdle. And it's all geared to break you. The machine is geared to break parents. That's what his machine is. It's geared to traumatize the children, and it's geared to break the parents, break their will to fight, break their will to survive. And even if they get the children back, they have fear, like all these different things. It is geared to try to do, right? So yeah, we got the court date. So we get back and we just trying to figure it out. We trying to figure it out. We trying to just see. And so that's kind of when it really started, where it was just, I mean, just personally, I was really, I'm talking like this now, man, but I was really struggling, bro. Like, because one was because, we went to the hospital. We were never hospital people, but of course we felt like we had to go because of the adhesion, because of, it was something greater that we couldn't, understand. And so, the narrative starts, at court starts being that, we, particularly me, you know what I'm saying, was malicious in having our son circumcised, and us circumcising him, oh, it wasn't this, it wasn't that, what I'm saying? And they try to bring all these different things, because first they try to say it was illegal, right? It wasn't legal. There's a city health code that says that parents have the authority to have their child circumcised. Because then it was, well, you're not a licensed professional, but then we went into the mohel, which is a Jewish name for circumcisers. They are not medically trained as a urologist. And this is what I learned throughout this process with the circumcision. And this is why I started to get spiritual, because Yahuah, it's almost like Yahuah picked this trial and he's like, I'm going to allow this thing to go this way to show you what's really going on. Because what we started seeing was they had lied about the bone thing. But I remember the investigator that we had, the CPS investigator, she started revealing some information, because when we would start showing her information throughout the process, she was like, hold on. Right. But let me pause before I get there. Because I'm going a little too fast. So the process is once the children is gone, I think our first step was we was like meeting like once a week for like 2 hours. It was crazy. Like once a week, 2 hours, and we having these monitors look over our back. You got to go to this facility and you got to get scanned in, buzzed in, they patting you down, they got the security, and, you see your children, once a week for 2 hours. Right. And so we dealing with that, and it's and the visits are tough. The visit is tough, right? It's tough, particularly because you're excited to see your child, but at the same time, that 2 hours is going to come, right? Like, you know that 15 minutes is going to come. And what started to happen is there was a thing where, it was some normalcy from him and from my other son, from Zakar and Yarik. And then all of a sudden it was time to go. And so this is why the machine is so evil, is because just as I told you, they ripped the child out of the home with no notice, with no nothing, right? And then they continue the process of traumatization by having these visit things, right? Having these visit things where, what I started to see in my 2-year-old is he would get comfortable and then it's time to go. So what that was doing to him was like, it was bringing a lot of anxiety and fear, because it was like that same moment was relived again. Oh, I got to be separated again. So, there was, a few times where, he just lost it, and that was very tough because people were, observe that, and then once again, because they're so demonic, they'll use that against you and say, oh, look at him. He don't even want to be with him, because he exhibited like, nah, I don't want to go. I don't want to go, this and that. And then it's like, it's so many emotions. And then it becomes, part of the trauma is now it's like, well, I don't even want to go to this space because I'm going to have to be separated. So I would rather protect myself from going to this space and having that hurt again than continue to go in this space. So he was going through a lot of different things. And I kind of understood it as I saw it, because throughout that process, he said things that really could be hurtful and were hurtful. But we understood as parents that it was because he was ripped from his home. And that's a thing that they try to use on you and say, well, like, oh, he loves them or he loves this and that. Because he would also say the positive things and say, I want to go home. I want to be with y'all. Like, when we going home and this and that. And it was beautiful because every time, like, it started to be when he would come to the visits, he would like want to play like house and be like, okay, like we're driving somewhere, we would drive to the store. We would imagine that we were driving at the house, and he would say, okay, it's morning time. We will, it's time to eat. And, we just played that, throughout the visits and played with toys and stuff. So then they increased it to 2 times a week for 2 hours, right? So that's still tough. It's not enough time. So throughout this whole process, the lawyers, I mean, they're part of the machine. It's like they got a factory. They clone Tyrone, right? But they clone the lawyer. And the first lawyer, let me tell you how this played out. So the first lawyer, the African guy, right? So, and I love my Africans, right? I love my Africans, man. But he did us wrong. You know what I'm saying? I'm just keep it real. You know what I'm saying? He did us wrong, man. Did me wrong. Because I gotta tell you that. So the parents get different lawyers, right? So the parents get different lawyers. You're not able to get the same lawyer, which is a setup as well, a part of the machine. So the judge actually came from criminal court, so she didn't really even know. She didn't even really know nothing about. I mean, the lawyers was telling her what to do. Basically, she didn't really know what was going on. So the situation with the first lawyer was, they were beginning to pressure and coerce us that we had actually broken his bone, right? They were saying it over and over. Yeah, this and that. Now, once again, let's rewind the story back. Remember, I told you they were saying that the doctors said that this type of injury, quote unquote, is by hyperextension, which is to literally take someone's leg and make it go the other way, right? And it is to fracture it, right? And it's a violent, and they say it's also a violent twisting of the leg, right? Now, There's no evidence of that other than what they're trying to say on this radiograph. There's no soft tissue injury. There's no this, there's no that, there's no bruising, there's no bleeding, there's no internal bleeding, there's no pain, there's no nothing. There's nothing other than what they can't explain on this radiograph. And the lawyers are trying to convince us that it is that indeed probably happened. That was the first wave, right? That was the first wave. Then the second wave was, well, when he got circumcised, someone probably pushed his legs too hard. Like it's all a theory. They use theories, right? It's not even actually what could be. It's actually what they can make up and make sound plausible. So that becomes their theory for an extended period of time, right? And so we're finding information. My wife is finding information. We're researching, and we're pretty confident, because I got a word early on, like I was just in prayer about it, and it was 3 words. It was unfounded, unsupported, and unsubstantiated. Right? That was what we held on to. That was the word that Yahuah gave us, and we held on to that because we didn't really understand what the bone thing was, because we didn't really know at the time, but we knew it wasn't what they were saying because we hadn't did what they said. So we're trying to figure things out, and we're finding information. I think I started writing the judge. I started getting all this information. We're just getting our confidence, building our confidence up in Yahusha. So with the Lord's just trying to convince us, man, you just got to agree with them because that's just what it is. And the consensus was, the first, it was the bone thing. They was agreeing with that. They kept calling it, and how the lie starts, once the doctors are able to lie on paper. That's why it's very important that paper, when they start lying on paper, they doing that in order to get it written in stone, to keep repeating it. So now once it's recorded, they're able to, and I think as a parent, what you have to do to guard yourself is to also be a recorder as well. And they don't like that, right? They don't like, because, they took you into a room. Think about it with a CPS investigator. They take you into a room, and this is how they try to put your rights. They take you into a room, and they're going to have the person that's the CPS investigator write down everything you're going to say, or what they want to write down, say. And this lady was so off. She was trying to say in her report that we followed the Quran and all type of stuff. Like just the children. She ain't even seen our children. She said the children exhibit signs that they don't want to be with the parent. It's all kind of just falsehood, right? And I ain't even gonna go over all that stuff because it's just gonna make me mad. But what I would suggest is in come in contact with not just them, but law enforcement or whoever is in some type of authority to try to do some weird stuff. That basically they work for the machine, is to say, well, I need to record that. How can I record this conversation to make sure the records are accurate? And if they say, well, it's no way to record it, I say, well, there's no way to have this conversation if there can only be one recorder. And then just exit yourself out the conversation. If they agree to audio, okay, let's audio. You know what I'm saying? If they say, oh, well, you can handwrite stuff. Okay, so well, I'm gonna handwrite stuff, and you take your time. Because what I would have did if I had, probably I wouldn't even talk to the investigator. I'd be like, well, we can record the conversation. Oh no, we can't. We're not allowed to record the conversation. So how are you able to record me, but I can't record you? Oh, well, that's just the policy. Well, I mean, well, can I hand record everything you're saying? Are there questions in my responses? Like you hate to be combative like that, right? And you hate to just not, we just having a conversation, but it's not just a conversation because they tricky. and they want to trap you in your word. So it got to be like that. It got to be like, yeah, that's like that, because you record and I can record too. And if you feel like I don't have the right to record anything, you're just taking away my rights to have accountability in this. Understand, parent, that you have that ability to everything you say, you saying it. You can record with somebody, you having a conversation, you engaging. I have the right to know what this conversation is going to be and to record it. If I can't have that right to have this conversation recorded and witness and have another witness and have 2 or 3 witnesses, so I would push for audio. But anyway, so I got this lawyer, and he's just trash. He's just trash, man. And it's like, I'm telling him stuff. Yeah. I'm giving him all the information pretty much about our case and about the bone situation. And it seemed like he budging, but it don't really seem like he budging. And so then it comes to a head with us, the African lawyer. It comes to a head because he's like, look, I think we can get a deal. Because at first they were saying, hey, we want to bypass the parents and terminate the rights. Now, the blessing in our case is that the aunt didn't want to, adopt them. The grandparents, they try to approach the grandparents to try to get them to adopt them. They said, no, we don't want to, that's their parent. They have parents. We're not trying to do that. So that was a blessing, because they try to move on that real quick for the adoption situation. So with this lawyer, he's pushing to say, man, just agree with the charges. And that's what the narrative had been throughout the whole process, to the point where I was like, no, this is spiritual, because it was almost like the devil would leave and he'll come back. So yeah, man, we got this new deal, man. So look, this the thing, you know what I'm saying? Now, because it started with, we want to terminate your rights. We're going to terminate your rights as parents. If you don't agree with the charge, the allegations, we are going to terminate your rights, right? Because they originally started, they said the circumcision is cruelty and all this other stuff. And really, their beef, when we talked to the investigator ended up telling us, she said, look, she called us one time, right? She called us and said, look, I didn't push for your children being removed. That was somebody from the higher up. I don't think you did any of that to your children. Blah, blah, blah. She told us off the record. She also some other people alluded to the fact that here's the thing. This is what we found out, and I'm trying to catch you up, is that in order for the children to be removed, the reason why the social worker had committed perjury, when she called us that Thursday. She called us that Thursday to find out if it was a fracture, right? Remember, that's the same day we got discharged. So it's no way in a matter of time. She actually I saw her talk to the pediatrician and come in the room. But after that conversation that I told y'all heard, she came in the room and said they don't know what it is. This is as regards to the bone abnormality. They said they don't know what it is. They said they got to run tests. This is earlier in the week, right? But then on Thursday, she still don't know, because she called us or when the text or call one of them and say, is it a fracture? And if it is a fracture, when did it happen? So she don't know. But all of a sudden, Friday, within the hospital was about to close and everybody went home. But all of a sudden, she got intel that it is a fracture. Now, but that wasn't the case. The case why she committed perjury was this. In order to remove children, there has to be an immediate danger. And in that immediate danger clause is broken bones and fractures and all type of certain type of injuries that allow for it to be said that it is a immediate danger situation, and we have to emergency move the children. Because it only went to that when she texted us that night and we said we want to consult with our lawyer. So she was in. So what that did for her is got her in malice. So that's the spirit that a lot of these social workers move in, is malice, because it's something in their life from their upbringing that has allowed them to get this position that allows them to exercise the spirit of malice to try to destroy somebody else's life because they hate themselves and they hate whatever about them, their life or whatever. So she goes to the judge and says, "Judge, the children are in immediate danger because there is a fracture. They fractured their son's bones. We have to remove them before something else catastrophic happens." So, the judge, they just sign off on anything. They don't investigate. They sign off, and now they're being removed. So that's the backstory on that. So, but the lawyers in the machine, their job is to break the parent. So they keep coming back and saying, "Look, they're gonna terminate your." That was the first narrative. They're gonna terminate your rights. They bypassing y'all, and they're gonna terminate y'all rights if you don't just agree with the allegations, and maybe they can work with us. That was the whole thing. Now, one of the people in the inside had told us, "Look, man, it was more so. It wasn't even about the fracture. They needed that to nail you to take your children, but more so, it was about the fact that your son was circumcised, and it was circumcised at home by you. You know what I'm saying?" And like I said, we had the professional kit, we had the professional training, like all that stuff. It wasn't like we went to university or something like that, but we studied how it was supposed to go. And like I said, he was circumcised, but he had that adhesion on there. So we went over that, right? So the whole narrative becomes that. So the lawyer ends up inviting us to the law firm, me to the law firm. This is as we get closer to, because what started happening, they kept continuing. If you don't know what a continuance is when you go to court and they say, "Oh, well, we need this, we need that, we need this, and we need this information." So they say, "Okay, we're gonna put it out to here." And they kept doing that. It was so frustrating. It was 30 days here, 2 months here, 4 months here. They kept pushing it off. So the first lawyer, we there. And so we have this meeting, right, with the law firm. And we go in there, and they're trying it's 3 lawyers. It's one head lawyer, which is, he's the head lawyer of the firm. It's another lawyer, and then it's my lawyer. And then it's like a secretary, and then it's me. And they pretty much circled up around me, was like, "Look," because at this point I had been standing on my square. I'm like, "Look, we ain't did none of this stuff they saying. I'm not agreeing to none of that." But they kept threatening us with, they're gonna terminate your rights. Just comply. And I'm like, absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is getting into now, they circled me up and was like, "Yo," they're trying to convince me that it is a fracture, and that they're like, "Man, you might not have intended to fracture his bones, but it remains that it is a fracture." I'm saying, "Why you keep saying it's a fracture?" Because I confronted them in the thing. I said, "Why you keep saying it's a fracture?" I said, you know what I'm saying? And I actually, one of the first things that I said to the head lawyer, I said the social worker committed perjury. And he put his head down and started mumbling, something incoherently, but never answered the question about her committing perjury. right? It was never, you know what I'm saying? It was never, he never addressed it because apparently in dependency court, perjury is not even an offense. You could do it. I mean, you can sign, they got it on the paper, but apparently it's able to happen. There's no standard. The judge don't have no integrity, right? They liars. You don't have no integrity. They don't have no investigation. The judge is supposed to be the trier of facts, but they won't try the facts to see when something is brought up to say, oh, you know, hey, what's going on? Because they're getting a paycheck. And it's all in the best, quote unquote, interest of the child, which is not the best interest of the child. Because if you cared about the best interest of the child, you wouldn't have ripped them from their home. You wouldn't allowed a social worker to create a false report without investigating it. And that's why I love the Torah. That's why I love what is happening in the scriptures, because it says that you're not able to bring a false witness without 2 or 3 viable witnesses. But the social worker is only one witness. So how is she able to make a accusation against somebody and only being one witness to sign to a judge? That's only one witness. There's no opposing facts. There was nobody there when she got that warrant to say, hey, I got the 2 discharge papers right here. This is saying they don't even know what it is. So how is it a fracture? Judge, strike that down. There is no immediate threat because this hasn't even been figured out what this is. Hey, right? So it's a complex case, right? Because you got the, you know, they're trying to get it. They're trying to nail us for the circumcision, but they can't say the circumcision is. First, they said the circumcision was cruelty. They try to come against us like it was, like basically, you know, because there's a narrative that has grown in California and America and the world where they view circumcision as barbaric, right? They view it as barbaric, but it's the covenant of Yahuah. You know, you read Genesis, it says that this is a covenant in the flesh because it's foreshadowing the covenant of the heart, right? To circumcise the heart. It's a foreshadowing of that, right? So, you know, that's the thing, right? So they circling me up. One lawyer like, yeah, man, yeah, the fractures could actually be like that because, you know, he trying to explain to me. I'm like, nah, I'm not buying it, bro. You telling me somebody twisted and did all this other stuff to his knee and he ain't got no sign of no pain. He ain't got no, and I learned so much throughout this thing of not being a doctor, right? But learning that actually, you know that bones actually bleed. I didn't know that. I didn't know bones actually bleed, and then when they bleed, you know, when they heal back, there's a callus. Just like how you break on your skin, there's a callus that happens, right? None of those things were present in our case. Nothing. So they couldn't figure it out. So it has to be that. There was no callus. There was none of that indicated a break or a fracture, right? So they circling me up. They trying to drill me. I'm not having it, right? So we come out the meeting, nothing's really resolved. I'm just like, nah, I'm not standing on it. It's like, man, you ain't ready to get on the stand, you know, because they're saying that, you know, they're trying to say that I harmed my son by doing the circumcision, and this and that, because he would have to get the adhesion thing on, but they didn't know that the adhesion thing can happen naturally, right? And that it happens even when, you know, a professional does it and they have to go in and do, you know, a thing, right? So that's the whole thing. They tried to. So we come out the meeting, we ain't got nothing really resolved. So at this point, we starting to get, we trying to search around, right? We trying to search around, and we find an expert. But before I get to the expert situation, throughout this process, personally, me and my wife, you know, my wife was really struggling. You know, Danielle was really struggling. And I think when it really hit me, like I said, I hadn't really got emotional about it other than like anger, upset, you know, confusion, all that type of stuff. And, you know, it was really trying, you know, my faith, because I was just like, Yahuah, like you, I believe you called me to circumcise my son. And then I'm getting persecuted for it because of this adhesion thing. But then why didn't it go all the way perfect? And, you know, I got all these questions, right? And I got all these questions. And I think I was having a moment where I was trying to find out like why I wasn't really crying like that. Like I was sad. I would have moments, especially with the visits. I mean, visits would just tear me. I mean, it's just tough, bro. And the tears would be there, and the tears would come. But when I saw I looked at my wife, how she was moving, and just like I wasn't super like, and not to say that a person got a ball, it ain't real till you bawling, crying or whatever. But I was just like, man, what, like, I didn't want to be fake sad. You know what I'm saying? I know that sounds crazy, right? Because it's like your children gone and this and that. But for me, it was the overall picture of like what is actually happening. Because for me, it was like I don't want to cry too much because of like, am I giving like, I just had a lot of thoughts of like, am I like I was on a post to not break down, to not get to the point where it's like I lose my grip to say, well, I don't know if we're gonna get them back. Like I didn't want to say that to myself, and I felt like if I broke that, and I didn't understand, because I didn't understand what was happening. Especially being a person of faith, I didn't understand why is this happening to us, right? Like what's going on, right? So really when I started getting clarity, and we started getting clarity as a couple, was one, we got that word unfounded, unsupported, unsubstantiated. That really helped us out. That really strengthened us, because we was like, okay, we're going to stand on that. Another thing was when I went for a walk. I went for a walk one day, and I was praying, and I was just like Father, like what's happening? This is crazy. Like, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm afraid. Like I got many things going on, but I just really don't understand what's happening in a sense of the grand scheme of things. Because you a child of Yahuah. You a follower of Yahusha of Nazareth, and and you're thinking like I got protection. Like, how was this happening? How were they able to just take my child? You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought we had just like certain level of protection, and I was on this walk, and I was praying, and the Father just gave me this vision. Like, I saw this vision of these children were being kidnapped, and they were being taken to this warehouse. And the devil had this warehouse where he was storing children. So yeah, I'm praying this, and I'm asking the Father this, and he answers me by his son Yahusha, and puts in my spirit that like this is what he's been seeing. This is what the Father and the Son, this is what they've been seeing. And children are being kidnapped by the devil and being put in this storehouse. And it's not that they just taking the children, they taking generations. They taking dreams, they taking visions, they taking purposes. And not just that this is happening and no one is alarmed. I ain't saying no one is alarmed, but it's not an uproar. It's not the biggest thing that's happening right now. It's like it's just life is normal. Of course, parents are speaking up, this and that, but it's like the days of Herod. It's like the days of Herod. It's like the days of Pharaoh. And he was putting in my spirit like no one's alarmed. There's no outcry. There's outcry for all these other things, all these other movements, all this other stuff. But there has not yet reached this thing where it's bubbling up. And the devil is taking these children and stealing these generations and stealing these children. And that, what he expressed to me was like, that hurts me. Like, I am hurt by this deeply. And I think at that moment was the first time like the tears like just like really came. Like it really came. It really just like just because I think for me sometimes it's like, you know, people of faith, sometimes you look at Elohim, you look at his son, and sometimes you're like, man, y'all just so great that y'all don't really know what we going through. Y'all don't really feel it like like y'all chilling. And in that moment I felt a father and his son like say like we hurt, like this hurts, like we hurt. And this pain you're feeling in this moment is something like we're feeling. And I want to take you through this process. I got you. I got you. I want you to be a fly on the wall. This is like the days of Ezekiel. What I'm doing with you is a wonder. And I'm gonna take you like Ezekiel through what's happening for you to see it front row, to know that they are taking my children. They are taking my children, and I want them back. I want them back. I want them to let them go. Right? These the CPS, the medical kidnapping, all those things. I want them back. Let my children go. And this is what he was expressing to my spirit. And this is where I think the trajectory started changing for us after that, and especially for me, because I had some type of grounding. I think as this happens to parents, it's almost, I mean, it's so many thoughts. Just like if you've seen that thing, Take Care of Maya, where I think the parent committed suicide because of the weight of the false accusations. I mean, they're trying to ruin your life. They putting you in a database. They trying to, if you in public service or you a teacher, you probably can't teach no more. You can't be around, just a whole host of stuff. They're trying to destroy your life. And it doesn't make sense, because as a parent, it's like, man, I've been here. I've been loving my child. Like, I ain't did this, what y'all saying. Like, how could this injustice happen? And it's such a heavy weight. It feels like, it just feels like death. Like, it's so heavy. It's so, the anxiety of waking up in the morning and having to go about your day and your children not be there. It's just so heavy. It's so heavy. It's just, I can't even explain it. And so that's going on. So when I come back from that, I'm empowered, and I'm telling my wife, and then we start to get on this journey where we're kind of understanding what's going on. It's some type of bone functioning thing, going on. So we end up, we start getting wisdom and start getting, as they say in Hebrew, hakma. And, my wife gets tested for vitamin D deficiency, and she's extremely low vitamin D. I mean, like really, really low. It's like the last category of like low. And it's like that gave us an indication, okay, something is going on. And then we started finding experts. So we found this one expert, which was so Yahuah. So Yahuah. Let me say was so Yahuah, because this expert was the founder and former director of the child abuse unit. Let me say this. He founded the child abuse unit at the very hospital we were accused of. Let me say that again. He was the founder and former director of the child abuse unit at the very hospital we were accused of. So he knew the inside of the hospital. He knew what was going on. He knew, some of the inner workings in there. And he also knew the lies. And that was so we bring him in. That was Yahuah, right? We bring him in and we get a initial report. So once we get that initial report and we put in there, and he's like, yo, this is like, he's going on. He go all right. He talked to us. He go through our history. We show him the test, this and that. He look at the X-ray. He just thoroughly go through the thing. He said, yo, this is not that. This is a mineralization on the corner of his bones. This ain't no fracture. A fracture is this. This is not present. Matter of fact, if you look at the rest of their chart, you can see evidence of the deficiency right here. You know what I'm saying? He started, boom, breaking it down. So we like, whew. So we empowered, right? But you dealing with a machine once again, right? The machine don't want to malfunction with truth is a virus to the machine. Truth is a virus to the machine. So they want to keep anything away. They want to keep truth away from the machine, from being implemented into the machine, because it will cause it to malfunction. So we this is the first lawyer. So we get the report, right? We get the first initial report. And I'm still with this first lawyer, right? So the first, like, men, they try to grill us up. So then once we got the report, we were in a power. It's like the power shifted a little bit, right? Because now the head lawyer was still with this other lawyer. And I remember it was a court date and they wanted to continue again. And we already had this preliminary thing. And we like, man, look, we just got the answer, bro. We ain't trying to keep doing this, merry-go-round stuff. And they always want to, the state would always want to continue off something like that's just so small. And here's the thing too, is they would schedule out, 2 or 3 months. And in those 2 or 3 months, you would think that your attorney would do a whole bunch of stuff in between, right? And you would think the state would be ready in between. But our lawyer would call us a couple days before, maybe the night before. Oh yeah, man, we trying to do this. Like basically like they had on the schedule to call you at the last moment and still didn't do no work in 2 months. And the state didn't do no months. They said they was accusing us of fracturing our son. And then halfway through the trial, I don't know if it was 6 months, whatever, how much, then they was like, oh yeah, can we get the CD of the x-rays? We was like, what? How do you not got the x-rays and y'all already, it was stuff that was just backwards, right? And I remember we had the CD to all the x-rays and stuff. And I'm in, we in this meeting for the court, with the lawyers. And the head lawyer like, yo, you got the CD? If you got the CD, they asking for it right now. And we could just give them to them now. I said, and that was after I got the report, because remember these same guys, they was agreeing with the state that we did something to our son. And I sat in there and I said, you know what? I said, I don't trust y'all. They say what? I said, yeah, I don't trust y'all, man. I said, man, because y'all been saying all this and trying to set us up and saying that I did this and that. And then I got this report that's saying this ain't even that. And y'all ain't even taking it serious. And y'all trying to talk about this CD and all this stuff. I said, man. So the head lawyer, he got pissed. He got pissed. And he was like, I'm going to the judge right now. And I'm so he went out there and removed his lawyer from representing me. Right. So that was the thing. So then I got this other lady, this witch, pretty much. Get this other lady. And so it's like all these lawyers, and then she come out the machine, and she another version of this other lawyer. And she was very, very, like, she would just, man, they're going to terminate your rights. She would pressure me. She would call, tell me the same spiel every time. Yeah, man. Well, number one, you didn't have the right to circumcise your child. Number one, I pointed to the biblical right, and I also pointed to the state right. But it was to the point with that lady to where I began to see, like, it was once again, I told you this thing is spiritual. to where she would come back every time and say, first it was about, you just got to agree sometimes with things that you don't want to agree with for the greater good. And I was like, absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? Like, they lying. I'm not agreeing with nothing they saying. Well, they're not, but and I was like, nah, it's no explanation for what they're saying. And they would try to wear on you because they would continue it out. They would take so much time. And so you're losing time with your children, right? As you continue, and they're trying to break you down to say, well, you're going to agree with us, or we just going to keep stretching out, and then we're going to eventually do this and this to your children. But, we just had to keep faith in Yahusha. And so she kept coming back, man, hey, man, they're going to take your children, you know what I'm saying? Hey, man, they're going to take your children, you know what I'm saying? And I remember one conversation with her where I just blatantly told her, I said, are you trying to I said, I told you before that this is false. Like, why do you keep coming back time after time and keep saying the same thing over and over, and knowing that I'm not with it? Oh yeah, it's just my job. I said, yeah, I get it's your job. I said, are you trying to turn me again? I said because I'm standing on the truth. The truth is Yahusha. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's that's what I'm standing on. I said, so this thing is tied to my faith as well. I said, so you keep coming back. You trying to make me basically turning me against my faith. She got quiet. Right. So, I mean, it got crazy. It got crazy because eventually, so I'm trying to, I'm still trying to play part of the game, right, with them in the machine, not with her. But I was like, well, maybe I can get like a character, because we about to have a trial and all that stuff. It's building up. And I'm like, maybe I can get a rabbi. It's a black rabbi. So we get contact with a black rabbi that know about circumcision and saying, yeah, man, circumcision is done at the home all the time. This is what the equipment is not, and this and that, saying this and that. And then I have a conversation with him, right? And here's the wild part, is the lawyers are trying to sabotage the parents. They don't want to tell the truth. Anytime you got daylight, and I'm going to show you this, anytime you got daylight, they crush it and still bring the state narrative back in there. Because the thing about it is the judge wants to sustain something. Even if they alter the allegations, they want to sustain something because that helps their statistics and that helps them get more funding and money. So they want to sustain something, right? So I have this thing I have talked to this rabbi person, and right? And allegedly being a rabbi, because it's a whole different conversation. But he got all these accolades, he got all this other stuff, and I'm talking plainly about this. I'm not releasing names, and they may listen to this, but this is how I feel. I'm just keeping it 100. This is how I feel. Why I felt some kind of way, right? I have to tell it how it is and how I felt, because anything else would be just fraud, right? Is why I felt some kind of way about how this rabbi moved is because I thought he upheld Torah. And Torah is explicitly talks about false witnessing, right? That was the whole thing, is they false witness and they kidnapped. It's two things. If I have two charges against CPS, it's false witnessing and kidnapping. So two things. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, right? And you shall not, how it's written, as far as kidnapping. I have a conversation with him. I express, what's going on. And we have a decent conversation where he understands, hey, this is how we went about it. This is how they've been persecuting us, et cetera, et cetera. He talks to the lawyer, and it's like he went in some kind of vortex, and she manipulated his mind to be on the side of the state. Ain't that crazy? The lawyer that is representing you convinces one of your witnesses that is going to be on your case to side with the state, to say, this was, because what started to happen was, I'm gonna pause. Once we got that report, that initial report, the narrative, everybody shied away from the fracture thing. Everybody started getting quiet on it, because when our expert came in, he number one, he respected. So the narrative now shifts to where we're not going to talk about that no more. We're not going to talk about that. We use this to take your children to commit perjury. We're not going to say nothing about it because they knew after reading the report that, oh snap, they've been lying. But y'all already did the damage. So now nobody talking about that. So now everybody talking about the circumcision. And the thing about now what they're talking about is now it's, oh, it was abusive. It was neglectful because you're not this or that, et cetera, et cetera. So they piling it on with the circumcision. So now it's like, no, you don't have the right, this and that, da da da. And every time I bring up the biblical narrative or bring up, circumcision originate from the Bible and this and that, they don't want to hear it. Nothing spiritual. I remember the Lord telling me, man, don't say nothing about no faith or nothing, right? Like they don't want to hear the judge. They said the judge don't care. We don't want to hear it, right? So they saying that you got to take your faith out of it and just go with the X's and O's. And I said, well, the reason why I did it was based off being called by Elohim to do it. And they try to flip my words. They would say, well, I think it was the money or this and that. They try, all this stuff. So you got this lady that flips because I was gonna, we got blessed to get the rabbi. We thinking, okay, he gonna come and be able to share like, hey, this is what, this is the process. This is why this is needed in the culture. This is important, like a character type of situation. She flips him. So she's sabotaging. Not only that, did she try to sabotage that? So our expert is about to write a full report before the trial. Because they keep asking me, do you want to try? Do you want to try? Do you want to try? They're going to terminate your rights. If you go to trial and you lose, they're going to terminate your rights, right? They keep pushing it. I said, man, I want a trial, man. I said, they done lied. They done lied, bro. They done bear false witness. They done kidnapped our children. Ain't nothing to talk about. Let's square up, right? We believe, Yahusha is with us. So she coming back. Nah. So now we about to get the report, right? So the trial is set, allegedly. Trial is set. This is my second lawyer. This is female. Trial is set. So I hit the expert up. Yo, hey, how you doing? How everything going through? Because it's getting close to the date, that we gonna have to have a report. I said, man, is everything cool? The report, everything. I said, because we got trial on this date, or we setting the trial on this date. We want to have this in. And he said, oh really? Is that because the expert was dialoguing with the lawyer? He said, is that date for real? He said, she told me it was this date. I said, what? Yeah, she told me it was this date. So he forwarded me the email. She done told him the whole wrong date to have the report ready. That we supposed to have it ready in the date. So, because she wanted to sabotage the whole setup to bring the continuance in order to do some trickery stuff. And I'm like, no, this woman did not tell this man the wrong date to have the report. Right? So I'm just like, I don't even address it with her. I'm just like, cause I'm already peeping her. I peeped her after that conversation when it felt like she was trying to turn me against Yahusha. Because that's what it seemed like the whole trial started to become. It started to become like, you're trusting in Yahusha, but will you flip? Will you flip if your children at stake? Will you flip? Will you switch it up? Will you deny the faith before men? Will you stand up there and deny the truth, right, before men? And that's what it became. That's what it became, to the point where we were going to try to represent ourselves. But Yahuah didn't have that, for us. But that's what we were trying to do. And we saw that there was no helping man. I mean, it was no helping man. It was no helping man. So I don't tell the lawyer that I know she's trying to sabotage, right? So I just play it, whatever, So she don't know that we're gonna have the report. So the day comes where he got the report ready that morning, and we reading this thing. We like, woo, this dude done. This guy done wrote a 65. He went in. He went on the circumcision. He showed that, hey, this type of thing that was with the circumcision, with the adhesion, could happen, this and that. And of course he's a doctor, so he, in the former pediatrician, so he said, hey, I wouldn't have, he said, I did like 1,000, he did like 1,000, certain circumcisions, and he was saying, I had to refer some of them to the urologist and stuff like that. He said, now I wouldn't recommend you doing it, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just my personal opinion, you know what I'm saying? I think it was ill-advised or whatever. But it wasn't, it's definitely not cruel. It's according to your faith, and there's nothing to see here. There's no reason they should have took your children, this and that. So he's on that, you know what I'm saying? He said, you went about it the right way, as far as, in a sense of having a professional thing, you know what I'm saying? All the different things he's saying. And then he's like, with the bone thing, he's just like, yo, that's just a whole fabrication, right? So, I mean, and I'm condensing it, but it was 65 pages, right? So he's smashing them. He lighting the scoreboard up. So we literally reading it on our way to court. We driving to court and we reading it. We like, yo, he lit it up. So we hype, right? Naturally, right? We hype. So she don't know that the report is ready, because she tried to sabotage the report to have it done another day. But then we get it, it's sent to her, and it's sent to my wife lawyer, and my wife lawyer, she was trash as well, because she was just playing pickup. Like, she wouldn't even really do nothing. She would wait to see what my lawyer would do and then do the same thing they doing. Not reading no information, whatever. Playing along with the system. So we get to court, and I'm like, yo, yeah, you read the report? It's not. She's like, yeah, I read it. But I don't feel like he has the right to say that this is not child abuse and this is not, neglect, all this other stuff. I don't feel like he's right. Now, this is crazy. Remember, I just told you that he is the former founder and director of the child abuse unit at the hospital. He was the one who founded the whole space at that hospital. And I feel like it was a thing for Yahuah to, almost like a redemption thing as well, because now he's in the business of like protecting parents and helping parents. And he was a former child abuse pediatrician who was the one who would say, oh, I think this is abuse. So for a lawyer to say that, I don't think he has the right to say that I don't think this is child. Like, you were supposed to be representing me. Why would you be mad at somebody, an expert witness, saying that this is not abuse? Like, that's crazy. And I looked at her in the hallway, and I was just heated. I was heated because they talk to you because in the hallway. Let me show you this. So in the hallways, all these parents, all these families right there. So you ain't got no privacy, right? It just feel like some type of jail situation. You ain't got no privacy. So she's talking right there in front of me. And I said, ma'am, if you trying to sabotage this case, if you trying to block evidence, I said, I will report you to the bar. Right? And she was, her top blew. You know what I'm saying? You saw it like them cartoons. Boo. You know what I'm saying? Like that joint blew, bro. And she stormed off. And just stormed off in the courtroom. Told the judge, probably bad mouth me, all type of stuff. And removed herself. So then when I go in court, we go in court. And the one other thing I don't like about this process is the judge gets to talk to the lawyers before the parents come in, and the parents are not privy to the conversation, which I feel like is weird, because they're all in on it. They're all in on it. And I'm going to show you that they're all in on it. So I come into the court, and she look at me, and she got this evil grin. I mean, it's like, that's why I said she was evil. It's like, kind of, it remind me of, you remember Ursula off of Little Mermaid? Like I said, I don't do the Little Mermaid, but you remember that Ursula, that sea creature? It was exactly like this evil face, like evil, it was all in her face. And she was like, oh, I got one up on you because you thought you was about to go to trial or set the trial and this and that, whatever. So they had to call another lawyer and this and all. And so they get another lawyer. So it's like I told you, it's a machine, bro. So this dude, he another clone of her. He a clone of all three. He a clone of all two of them. And he come out and he's just like, yeah, man. The first conversation I had with him, he ain't even looked at the evidence. And he like, man, some things we just have to agree with. I mean, if it's not true, we don't have to agree with it. But some things that are true, we have to agree. And I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? He already gone with that program. You know what I'm saying? So we have it with him going over this stuff, right? He got the report. He read the report, and this what he told me. I remember being in the hallway, and cause there wasn't really many people in there. And this was after, we had got logged in with him. And he was saying, he pulled me to the side and said, man, it ain't no justice in this court. That's what he told me. This lawyer that's representing me, that's going in every day fighting for parents, told me out of his own mouth, he said, ain't no justice in this court. So when you can get something, you can get anything. You got to take it. And I respected him for telling me that there wasn't no justice in the court. But we still ain't going to listen to what they saying because they're liars. You know what I'm saying? So he got the report. He read the report. And they just so nonchalant, like, because it's like they've been defeated. Like their spirit been defeated to just make their whole job is to make parents agree with the allegations and whatever. But this particular judge that we had, I remember calling other lawyers, and when I would say, this particular judge, they had a reaction. One judge was like, yo, he said, man, if I was on your case, man, the first thing, if I heard you had that judge, I would try to get another judge, right? Because she terminates parents' rights left and right. She is the worst judge you can get. That's what he told me. So yeah, he got the report. And now here's the thing. So he got the report, and it's coming up towards the end of the setting the trial, right? Setting the trial. We're getting towards the end, right? And we still doing our visits twice a week. They're getting better. The car's getting more, because he went, it's a lot of emotional, trauma and hardship. But also too, one of the tough things is when your children are out of your presence in different environments, they're, it's not the same environment as the parent, how we would raise them. So there's bad habits and different things that are now he's gravitating to that we're starting to see, which is alarming, but it's also one of the things that we, having compassion to know that, it's due to his environment, that he's in. And that's why I can see that also on this journey, parents that are going through things where some parents had them in, different homes or had them in foster care, those environments where people now, of course, there's parents out there that don't love their children and will hurt their children and do different things. But I think that the resources and things that if we talk about, we want to keep families together, we need to put resources into keeping those families together. We need to put resources in rehab. We need to put resources in, counseling. And of course, the most biggest thing is faith in spiritual. Because if you ain't got that as a foundation, you ain't got Yahusha as a foundation. I mean, all the other stuff ain't really gonna matter. So that's what it needs to be. But this whole DCFS, it just need to be destroyed and burnt to the ground because the statistics are showing that y'all don't care and it's a money grab, right? It's a cartel. So, but we do need community organizations that do care to help out and to see where a child is getting abused or a child is, going through some things. Okay, how can we put money into this family? How can we, maybe you do need some time off. Maybe you do. And who's the next of kin? Okay, they don't have a next of kin. They just might be so orphan. Yeah, that might be a situation where we need to put them with another parent that actually care. So you have the situation where we set in the trial. They're like, man, you sure you want a trial, man? If she find any of she gonna terminate your rights, bro. So it was just like whoever was strengthening us, man. And on the sidebar, throughout the process, because I'm gonna lead it up. We almost at the end. Throughout the process, we were really searching our lives to see, because a lot of times parents hit it different ways, right? Yes, it is the injustice of what has happened to you, but it's also some lessons that can be learned in this thing. And so part of it was, what is Yahuah really trying to teach us? Like, what's the lesson in this thing? It's not just to just go through this. It's just like, and to get out of it. What was the lesson? And so we started to search and pray and, really ask Yahuah, like, what really is going on? Like, okay, we understand that you're showing us what's going on with, the world, the kidnapping, the storehouse that the enemy has with the children. That's a huge part of it. But what us personally, like, what is being shown? And so one of the biggest things that started coming up was the book of Job. And reading that book, because it really felt like I said, I can't compare, I tried to Job because he just went through a lot of different stuff that, we didn't go through in that sense. But one thing that was similar was, it felt like when this trial started, it was like dominoes, like one bad thing happened after another. Because we wanted to get them back to the grandparents, but we was living with the grandparents at the time, and that was a whole thing. So it was just so many things that was happening, and it just felt like it was not gonna stop. Like, it was like, how the Job, something is happening, and in the middle of them telling him that this just happened, somebody else coming to say this happened. You know what I'm saying? It was like that, like blah 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 blah. And Yahuah strengthened us not to, like, curse him, because it was a lot of those moments where it was like, Yahuah, how can you let this happen to us? How can you let this happen to, when we started finding out stories of other parents, like, how can you let this happen to other parents? This is crazy. Like, how is there no protection? Like, how is, like, it was just so many questions. And but throughout this thing, reading this Job, you start to see at the end of the book of Job where Job's getting to the point where he's like, yo, how is this happening to me? I did this, I'm righteous. You know what I'm saying? But he naming off reasons, why this shouldn't have happened to him, and why, basically he's justifying himself. And it literally says it in there that he justified himself in the eyes of Yahuah or Elohim, and that his friends ceased to talk to him. And I remember reading that one day, and it was just like a breakthrough, because I literally saw that's exactly what we were doing. I mean, we were sharing all the facts. We would try to talk. We would try to call this number, this and this, and just throw all the information of facts that you knew at the situation, and it just felt like nothing was happening. It just felt like, and it just got exhausting. And it was like we were trying to prove ourselves to them. And when I read that verse and it just hit me, it was like, this is what we're doing. We're trying to justify ourselves to these people. We're trying to justify ourselves to Elohim, right? Because Yahuah called us to do this thing, but we're trying to, and why we got to break it down a little bit. The breakdown part is this, is that if you read the book of Job, the devil came to Yahuah, and Yahuah said, have you considered my servant Job? for there was no one like him in the earth. And at that moment, Yahuah was declaring Job righteous. Even though Job had this thing he had to get worked on, that was a declaration from Yahuah. And what I learned about this trial is that we don't have the authority to declare ourselves right. We don't, because we've all sinned and fallen short. We've fallen short. And so us justifying ourselves will not complete the task. It will not make us be in right standing. And so I really saw that. I really saw that no matter what we said to try to justify ourselves, it wasn't enough, because they always found fault in it. And I think, we were just going back and forth over that, going back and forth on Job. And so when Job declared himself righteous, he didn't have the authority to do that because he was a sinner, right? Because we have all sinned. But the righteousness is from Yahuah through his son and by his son, in his blood, to cleanse us from unrighteousness and to cover us, from the penalty of death, right? So, the Messiah, Yahusha, is our righteousness. And so we really got that lesson to see and started to see that justification is a thing that parents really got to watch out for, because even though you want to prove yourself, even though you want to stand up for yourself and say, this is that, I'm not saying not stand up for yourself, but what Yahuah taught us out of that lesson, he was saying, look, stand on what I'm telling you to stand on. You don't have to say 1,000 words. You don't have to say this. You don't have to prove this to them. I know it feels like they attacking you. I know they persecuting you. I know you want to say this. I know you want to say that. I know you want to show them this. I know you want to speak this. But you got to trust me. And you got to trust me that if you stand on what I'm telling you to say, that you're going to overcome. So literally that's what we started to do. We started to find, and ask and seek Yahuah to what's the bottom line. And so he gave that to us, and we stood on that, and we started to repeat that. Because he was charging them with false witnessing, with kidnapping. And I remember even telling the lawyer about, the false witnessing that mentioned in the script, and they was looking at me like I'm crazy. But we started standing on that. We started to say, okay, we're going to shift it. And when we made that shift to say, okay, Yahuah justifies us. Yahuah has given all judgment unto his son. So his son, Yahusha, is the judge. So if he's the judge, can't nobody outjudge him. Can't nobody. And that was a thing that really, especially as we got closer to this trial, that's what gave me relief, is that though this judge was there and it was ruling unrighteously, she didn't even want to give us, we was asking for, at a certain time, we was asking for just, man, give us just another hour, give us whatever. She was striking that down. And we had her battle. I remember when we asked her to represent ourselves, she said, man, y'all very articulate. Y'all very, trying to boost us up. But she said, no, I'm not going to let you represent yourself, but let it be known to the court that y'all are very articulate and, understanding and whatever and all this stuff. But it was all a fraud, what she was saying, in a sense of the fakeness. You know what I'm saying? Like, because people can flatter you. It was flattery. That's all it was. But so that's the thing. So we learn in that, and then because you see with Job, when he said that, all of a sudden Yahuah comes at him and is like, yo, was you here when I did? Like, he basically humbles him. You know what I'm saying? He humbles him. Was like, yo, was you here when I did this? What that? What is? Nah. You hit him with that, and Job's like, yo, man, I didn't know what I was talking about, man. Like, and that's kind of how what it hit us, where Yahuah really started showing us, like, man, we forgive us for feeling like we had to justify ourselves to man, like we had to prove ourselves to men, and not just say what you want to be said, and that's it. And it reminded me of like when people, die, and they try to justify themselves by their works or by this or by that or by this. And the issue with that is because if you justify yourself and declare yourself to be right and to be righteous, that means without sin. If sin is able to be found, if the devil is able, the prosecutor is able to find just one loophole, just one hole, then you're done, because you declared yourself right, and you declared that you should be free off the basis of what you're declaring. But if there's a fault in that, then now the judge has to say, well, if I put the weight on what you said to be this, and I weigh it, and now this is being shown, I have to go with the prosecution. And that's how the devil is prosecuting people, because people are, people believe they're good people. They justify themselves by whatever they do, but they are in debt in sin, right? But when you get there on the righteous side of things, it's like, look, for by favor we have been saved through faith, right? So no man can boast. So that looks different, and that looks different to where, because you trusted in Yahusha of Nazareth and what he's done in his sacrifice and in the blood and death, burial, and resurrection, and who he is, being the Messiah and the Son of Elohim, you have overcome the world. And because your faith, the grace and the faith linked together, now the enemy cannot persecute your faith. He can try to get you to, move a certain way. But when it comes to trying to, for him to try to condemn you, and that was a big word for us in Romans 8, where there is no condemnation for those in Messiah, right? And so it just hit me like Yahusha's the judge, and Yahusha just ruled and told us that, unfounded, unsupported, unsubstantiated. So whatever this person is trying to say, the people trying to persecute you and say you're this or say you're that, say you hate your children, or you this, or, because they would come, the state was really trying to paint this narrative that we were just really cruel parents. And then when, of course, when our expert come in and they try to switch it up and try to say, well, I don't think they was like really trying to do this, but they, they didn't really want to go too hard after that. But it was, that whole narrative was, that we abused and we neglected our children. So they try to hit us with the medical neglect thing. So that was a lesson. Now we really saw the atmosphere shift when we said, okay, we're going to just put it in the hands of Yahuah and just trust and stand on what he wants us to stand on, and not feel like we have to prove it to you. We have to prove it to you. I have to say I did this, because once you start moving in that spirit, there's going to be fault that is found, and then that's when you're nailed, right? So we just so once we did that, that's when we saw the shift, and we were just prepared for whatever was going to happen, and just trusting Yahusha. So now we're on to the finale, right? We on to the finale, and so I'm probably gonna do part 3. I know we right here, but I wanna break it up again to part 3, and the reason why is because I wanna have that third act to really give you the full weight of it, and not just minimize it to just hurry up and finish and just you hear the rest of the story. So you gotta stay tuned. Stay tuned on Guard the House podcast. I thank you for listening. Share this with parents. Share this with people that may have gone through it. This is part of our story. It's part of our journey, man. Which I pray that you hear more about. But this is what's going on. So thank you for listening. And we are out of here. Guard the house.